I was just considering and thinking about the Crusades and what were really the flaws of the Crusades. And the flaws were really an issue of cause. The first being that they thought they needed a place to worship God, that God needed a place to be worshiped. But as we know, Christ would really clarify that in John chapter 4, that he doesn't need to be worshiped in a place like Jerusalem, but is worshiped in spirit and truth. Also, they thought that humans were the enemy, or that the Muslims were the enemy, or the Jews were the enemy, and not the forces of darkness. But we know that Ephesians chapter 6 clarifies that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And we know that from the story of Joshua when he met the angel of the Lord, that God was not on sides, but that he was on his own side. And so we also have that they thought that God needed defending. And I think that's such an important point today, is that we think that God is losing today. We think that he needs defending, that he needs a crusader knight. If only we were a little bit more capable. But that's a huge flaw, because God is sovereign. And it's his work, not our work. Also, we have the thought that martyrdom was pleasing to God. A lot of these crusaders, they would fight to the death because they thought that God was honored in their death, in their martyrdom. And that is also a flaw. Yes, the blood of the saints is precious to God, but he doesn't need, again, our help. He is at work, not us. And then finally, and this really got me considering this thought, is that they thought they could atone for their own sins instead of realizing that Christ was the atonement, that it's not about their work, but it's about his work. So whatever sin you're dealing with right now, whatever guilt you're dealing with right now, again, remember that it's Christ's work, not our own work. As was stated in, I think it was episode 5 of Star Trek, God doesn't need a starship. God doesn't need anything of this world. He owns everything. He is God. And so allow him to do the work in your life. Allow him to really change your appetite. If you're struggling against sin, know that it's not your fight. Trade your trying for trusting. I'll say that time and time again. It's not about you trying harder. That's about your glory and you in the flesh, about your work, about you being a crusader. But it's about him and trusting him, that he'll change your appetites. He'll change your heart. If your heart, you feel like, is torn by the world, he calls you to come out of the world, not to be plagued by the world. So I hope that little bit of history and truth kind of resonates today.